probably about a half hour late, but I've not heard from anybody else. So
I haven't either.
I don't know if you'll need that much time anyway, so.
Yeah, I need to, I'll stay on, but I need to sort of double task around 11 o'clock. But I'll.
Well, we've got a meeting at 11.
yeah, we've got a committee meeting at
11:30.
11 o'clock anyway.
Yep.
So
Yeah, hopefully.
morning, John and Corinne.
And Michelle. Hello, everybody.
Hey, John. Hey, Corinne.
Michelle.
Hopefully this won't go
Hey, Michelle.
very much past.
Our goal here was to get more car seat people than work group people. So
Oh, I can leave.
We're gonna be really task oriented here.
So I don't know whether David is going to join us.
We haven't seen him in a little bit.
Yeah, I'm assuming he's pretty busy trying to
Yeah,
figure out what's going on.
I would imagine.
Yeah, it seems that a number of the districts, at least in the Seacoast area, are still teetering on final decisions. They've got models up for hybrid, but it's complicated. As
Oh yeah, it is huge.
Yeah,
You think of all the variables, not only with, I mean, what you can take home from school, teachers who have compromised families. I mean, it's just awful.
And then just the bus routes, just these alternating days and hours and shifts. Exeter, I know in Exeter, Dave's district, they're doing a kind of a double shift between the middle and the high school.
Hey, is that a t-shirt? I don't think I've ever seen you wear a t-shirt.
what, me?
No, I'm talking about Jay.
Oh, Jay.
It's Dress Down Friday.
John, it's not even blue.
I'm so used to you looking professional, Jay.
No, Jay's got a nice JCon for Senate t-shirt that I've seen.
Yeah, that's right.
That was a part of a gray t-shirt project. It contributed to local charities, or I don't know, during the COVID. Good community project, and it served a double purpose.
Mm-hmm.
John probably got t-shirts too. I want one of yours.
I can't afford t-shirts, Jay.
Huh? You got to pay for it first. Right. I give them the volunteers.
Well, as I said before some of you got on, Susan has indicated that she's going to be about a half hour late. So why don't we get started?
Okay.
This is a work group committee of the community engagement project. We have really a single item on the agenda, which is to look at the questions that we want to put on the UNH survey for September, and to try to hone in on the questions that we want to send to the commission for next Monday. Even though the commission is going to have a very busy schedule with the report from AIR, which will take up the majority of the time, I think if we get these questions to the committee early on and get feedback, we should be able to identify those. So I'm going to call the meeting to order, and this meeting is being recorded. There will not be an opportunity for community input, but if there's questions, you can go to the CARSI website and list those questions, and we will get a response to you. So we need to take a roll call here. I'm Mel Myler, and I'm the chair of this work group, and I'm here in Port Clyde, Maine, by myself. Corinne?
Corinne Cascadna. I'm in my home in Berlin, New Hampshire, and my grandson is in the other room on his Switch.
Senator Morgan?
I'm here in my office in Exeter, New Hampshire, and I am currently alone.
Okay. Senator Khan?
Present in Keene and alone in this room.
Representative Luno?
In Hopkinton with Ozzy, the long-haired dachshund.
And then we have from the CARSI school, Carrie?
Carrie Portree, I'm in Dover. My husband's wandering around this apartment.
Bruce Mallory,
Here in Kittery Point, Maine.
Jordan,
Jordan Hensley, also in Dover. My fiance is in the other room.
Michelle.
Michelle Holt Shannon, Dover, hanging out with Pluto, the puppy.
Great, great. Okay, so we've got this one item, and I'm going to ask Carrie or Jordan, someone, to put up the questions that at least we looked at last week, and we did get some feedback from Chris Dyer, and these are in red are the concerns that she issued with each of the questions. The goal of today, I think, is to summarize the draft questions that we want to submit. So if we could go through these and look at these questions and see how we want to deal with. These are very, very good responses on the part of Chris and this was she was the only one who actually responded to the question. So let's look at the first one here.
Excuse me, Mel. Carrie, can you go up to the top of this doc? Because I just think it's important. One of the demographic questions we had talked before about what will we know about the people that are responding, and how can we cross tab their demographic information with their responses. So for example, it'll be important to know if somebody is currently a parent of a child in a public school, if they're currently a renter or an owner, if they're currently retired or employed. So in any case, you see the demographic questions at the top that will be added to the Granite State poll, in addition to their standard questions about age, gender, region, level of ed, income, and political party, registered party, if any. So just wanted to point that out because I think this will help us, mine this data when it comes in more effectively.
Okay, thank you, Bruce. All right. So as we look at the first question there, any suggestions? Chris obviously has raised some questions about so what's your thoughts here?
One is that it's fairly easy to dissect the concern that she has, meaning we could say with $2,500 coming from state property tax, state tax on local properties or something.
Yeah,
I like the question. I mean, I like what it's trying to get at, because are people going to say 100%, or are they going to pick a number somewhere less than that?
We're on the very top question.
Yeah, the first one, John. Yeah.
So, I mean, the information is not helpful. Double negative on purpose there, but I don't understand. If we're trying to get at the core of what people believe in terms of the state's responsibility, I don't understand why we would include that information. I don't understand why we wouldn't just ask what proportion should the state contribute toward providing an adequate education. And you can still have 0 to 25, you can still have those.
Sure enough.
Those options. I'm just trying to understand, like, what is the core, or what is the fundamental purpose of that question?
And that's exactly what we want to be focusing on, for sure. That was the recommendation from the people, that is like going to what's core, and exactly what you just said, John. So let's keep going with that kind of thinking.
You're saying that the survey people have indicated that's the kind of focus that the question should have. Right, Carrie?
Yep. Fundamental, exactly what John just said.
So
Yeah,
I
I don't
want to,
think, go ahead.
no, I was just going to pick on this a little bit. So, so currently the court says the state pays 100% of the cost of inadequate education. So I'm wondering if putting that legal definition in there is really not as useful as for education. What do we need the word adequate in there? Because adequate education and cost of education are sort of two different things.
I'm not opposed to that at all. And the court says that the state should, right? But like, obviously the state.
No, the court says define an adequate education and pay for it.
Right. We don't do it. We still have,
Well, we do. It's just way short of what the average cost of education is. So I think most people getting this survey are going to be thinking, my local average, I don't even want to say average cost. It's like what it costs to educate a student.
The core question is, should the state pay for it or should the town pay for it?
Right.
That is.
And how much? And what percentage?
And what percentage?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I don't like that question. Do you think that is reasonable? That shouldn't even be there.
No, yeah.
Who cares what they think if it's reasonable or not? What
Yeah.
should it be to affect local property taxes?
Yeah.
Might it also help here in the defining to have the actual courts, the court language cite from its opinion?
I don't think so. This is a,
Might be too long.
This is a verbal telephone, survey.
Okay.
We
So-
throw that in.
Yeah, too much jargon.
This
So the only
survey
other-
will be a web panel, so it's like a online. They will be able to see a little bit, but yes, that was another recommendation, is reducing like as succinct as possible is what we're going for here.
How much
I don't
should
like
the state be paying for public education?
And I do, in response to Jay's point earlier, some kind of phrase in there, like parentheses, in addition to or separate from local property taxes or property taxes, period.
Well, isn't that where you get the question of the percentages, giving some percentage ranges?
Right, so other than local property tax contribution, including
Yeah.
local property tax, that's really is a state tax, state property tax. What
And
else?
do we really want to ask the public whether the state or the town should pay for an adequate education when the courts say the state really owns that responsibility?
It's what portion?
It's the portion, right.
Well,
How much-
yeah, and that's why I was suggesting taking the word adequate out of there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
By providing a public education?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. What proportion providing a public education? Okay. What proportion, state or town? How much should the state be paying for public education? I would leave it at that.
Well, I think proportion is probably, because how much, that could be a dollar figure.
$5.
Right.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is, you can all see the screen. We're blue. We're in blue.
Yeah.
What proportion should the state contribute?
Public education.
Yeah.
For public education.
Right. Public is a
Yeah.
key.
And then we want to put in,
Yep.
And then how much should the state be paying for public education? Or what proportion?
and keep in mind the Survey Center will also look at these and provide, once we do it, one more pared down version, they will look at this and then provide some more information for us. Some help.
Well, let's get rid of the how much question down below. So that doesn't count.
Yeah, because that'll be a dollar figure.
Yep.
So we like this one better for this one.
Mhm.
Okay.
So easy.
This is
Yeah.
really good, everybody.
Okay, let's go to the next one.
Okay.
I think that the wording on would you, no, never mind. It almost, where's the further down is the question that you're asking people, would they support an increase in local property tax, an increase in statewide property tax, an income tax, a sales tax?
Yeah, I agree with
You
Carney.
know, I think we're repeating the same thing.
Yeah.
Unless you change new and expanded statewide tax, that doesn't give another option for a revenue.
Yeah, that one goes because it is addressed.
Yeah, you want a revenue. Yeah, it's a revenue question.
I think in setting this up, look at the fifth question, the longer one, starting with some communities.
Yeah.
That question probably should be bumped up before the question that identifies potential revenue sources.
That was my impression.
Yeah. And then your next question gets into the details. Well, would you consider income tax, sales tax, statewide tax?
Where do you want to put, where is this going?
So the third, well, I don't know, it's just my input is that third bullet that starts, which of these options? Okay, that fifth question should go just before that, because that's a broad question.
Okay.
Yep.
We're
I'll
getting
scroll
rid
down.
of this, right?
Yep. And then your next one gets into the detail, and I'll let other people kind of. I don't know that tax equity needs to be there. Well, wait a minute.
No, and then that was a question
No.
that I had when I first saw that was, how do you define the term tax equity?
Yeah, no, Carrie, the question that I thought should go after the explanation of the property wealth is the next one down that says, which of these options is closest to your opinion of what should be the primary source of education funding? That should go after the question of that describes property wealth, in my opinion.
So it'd be the first question. The second question would be some communities in. The third question would be which of these options is closest to your opinion, right? Is that where you're going, Corinne?
Yeah, scroll down, knowing community and tax.
I'm sorry, because I'm looking at Carrie's document.
I am too, but I got to go back now to the other.
Because I wanted to see all the questions, and
I did too.
Okay. Let me number.
So we made edits to the first one on average. Okay.
So the first, okay, so let's
The second one.
Let's go back for a minute. Let's do a review. So the first question in it, we've rearranged it to, on average, school districts to spend approximately $19,000 per student each year, with approximately $4,500 from state funds and the rest mostly from local property taxes. And then we're saying the question is now,
what proportion should the state contribute for public education? Yes.
what proportion? Yeah, and then we give the choices.
Yeah.
Yep, Jay.
Well, I think Chris was raising the question about using this 4,500 number.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it is irrelevant.
Is it a percentage that should be there instead, Jay? Instead of 4,500, do you think?
Hold on. On average, school districts spend 19,000 per student each year. That's without qualification. We know that one, right? That's right. I mean, you could put a period after a year, and then ask the question, what proportion should the state contribute?
Okay. Okay, so let's Okay, let's leave that one. I think that's good for now. Remember, we can edit these again.
Okay.
So the number 2 right now is knowing communities and school districts in New Hampshire have varying taxable wealth based on property values. How important is tax equity in school funding? The comment here, and as Mel mentioned, is that this would require contextual definition of tax equity. I think Bruce and I talked about this a little bit just in our comments back and forth to each other. So our goal is
I don't know why we have that question, whether it's really relevant.
okay. How about other folks? What's the
So,
general?
yeah,
I think that current number 3, doesn't that deal with the issue of the,
Yeah, that was my thought. It's more layman's language.
yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna erase number 2.
so hold on before you
Just
do
strike
that.
it. Just strike it first.
Well, hold on, before you do that,
Dave says hold.
before you strike it, see,
Dick
Some-
Ames is also here.
what's that?
Dick Ames is also here.
You know, one of the good things about question 2 is that it's short. I think one of the tough things about question 2 is that it uses a very complex term, tax equity.
Mhm.
I wonder if there's another way of saying this. And I'm not advocating this. I'm just like, what if it were said something like, should cities, should communities, or should cities and towns pay about the same, or pay similar tax or pay the same tax rate for to fund public education? Don't even say the same. Just don't even say similar. Say the same.
So I work on this question, but I don't think this question is the second question.
No, I don't either.
That's okay. We'll do an order.
Yeah.
Let's work on succinctness and what's core to what we want to know, and then we'll rearrange them.
So is the answer to this
That's
yes or
gonna be
no?
my suggestion. Should
Yeah,
cities
that's a yes. No.
pay the same tax rates for public education?
And I would have to say property tax, right?
Yeah.
To understand what it means.
Should cities and towns pay the same property tax rates to fund public education?
Let's change it again so that we're not comparing cities and towns. Should everyone pay the same property tax rates for public education?
Good.
Yeah.
Now, does that first phrase in number 2 still stick? Knowing communities and school districts in New Hampshire have varying taxable wealth, comma, should everyone pay the same property tax rates?
Just
That names the
break
issue.
it
I like it. I like that.
down
Yeah.
for-
Yeah.
I think it's okay, but I think to break it down even further. So knowing I would, my proposal would be to say, make this illustrative for folks so that they understand exactly what's happening here. So some communities pay X percent in property tax. Some communities pay Y percent in property tax. To fund public education. Then should everyone pay the same property tax rates to fund public education in New Hampshire? Question mark.
Okay, so this is what we have. Some communities, oops.
Yeah, so
Some
I think,
communities,
go on.
All right.
Good.
Again, it's the people that pay the property tax. So is it?
So here's one of the problems with that is that, and I think we're going to wind up with a rate per thousand.
Yeah. Right.
Because the percent of property tax becomes so infinitesimal.
Yeah.
On a 100 scale, that it's got to be bumped up. That's why it's bumped up to 1,000 scale.
Yeah, the percent is not a critical component there. That whatever, I mean, we're accustomed to talking about the per thousand in New Hampshire, so I think that would be fine. I was just trying to get at what the question was asking.
Yeah, what does everybody need to know to answer it?
Yeah.
Some communities pay $2, some communities pay $25.
Yeah, that's pretty.
I mean, that's essentially the range,
Yeah.
you know, swept
Right.
with 0 local tax all the way up to, low 20s plus swept.
So it's $2 per thousand and $24 per thousand.
Yeah, I mean, roughly, yeah.
Yeah, and then there's the word valuation.
That clarifies it.
Yeah, go ahead.
2,000. Yeah, do you need the word? Some $2 per $1,000 of $2 in property tax per $1,000 of property wealth or property valuation.
Value.
Or another. So now we're getting to a lot of words here. How about some communities pay 10 times more in property taxes than others for public education?
I think this is short enough. I think it's okay.
In the second line, should you add the word state in there somewhere? Should everyone pay the same property tax rate? I don't know. I'm thinking if same property tax rate would be what I pay my town. But there's a portion on the tax bill that is a state property tax. I don't know.
That is the
That
same.
clear enough? I don't want to get muddy.
Yeah, I don't think we need to.
Just leave it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's question 2. Potentially question 2. Some communities pay $2 of property tax per 1,000 of property value. Some pay $24 of I don't know.
Yep.
Okay, a property tax per 1,000 of property value. Should everyone pay the same property tax rate to fund public education in New
Yeah, that's
Hampshire? I think we're gonna leave this as 2 and move to number 3. Sound good?
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Here we go.
Let's just make sure we fact check that. I'm pretty sure that's correct, but the $2 and the $24.
Okay. Okay. Moving on up.
And also on that, we don't need to get into cents, and $1.98 is the same as $2 or $2.02. As long as somebody's paying at least $2, and as long as somebody's paying at least $24, then I think we're good.
Give people a sense of the range.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Something to.
I'm paying much more than I'm paying more than $24 in Brentwood.
Yeah.
Just to be clear. So
For
we're good on the 24.
school.
Yeah,
School.
that's your school portion. Oh, can't hear you, John.
You're muted, John.
Yeah, I don't know the exact number for just the school part. I'm just talking about.
Don't get it.
Yeah. And when we get to the end of this, I know we're going to be exhausted and not want to talk about this anymore. We should have a citation for each of these facts. It's either at the bottom of the survey or just right. Where's the 19,000 derived from? Where's the $2 derived from? Where's the right?
Yep. Department of Revenue Administration.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah,
just
the
something at the bottom of the survey. Don't load it up in the questions, just.
Yep.
People want to fact check us.
Okay. Good. Good
Okay,
point.
item 3.
So I have a suggestion. If I can step in. This is
Yeah.
Dick.
Hi, Dick.
I liked what you did to number 2. You got away from the average. You have some paying $2, some paying $24 property tax rate. But on the question number 1, I'm talking about an average. And in fact, Manchester spends approximately $14,000, and other school districts spend approximately $30,000. You could do it that way, and that draws out the realities that people are living in, whereas the average is not. It may fit their particular situation, but it doesn't fit many people's situation.
I prefer the average.
I think there was a concern, Dick, previously that specific examples would, people were not, there was another conversation about there wasn't any interest in doing specific examples, and I can't remember the exact reasons. I think just, well, I'll leave it at that.
Just trying to keep the wording as brief as possible.
Okay. Mel, kick us along here.
Okay, let's go to 3.
So Chris's comment was, I don't think it's helpful to keep equating property wealth in a community with household income, given the presentations we've had lately.
I think looking at this now, that second or third sentence, which is a question, would you support, just by itself is really what we're asking. And with the other questions that precede this, I think there'll be some context for responding to that piece of it.
So with what Bruce said, the question would read, would you support a statewide funding system that allocates more money to communities with less property wealth than those communities with more property wealth to equalize students' opportunity for an adequate education?
I'm not sure that's the right wording, but that seems like the substance of the question.
Yeah.
So what do you mean allocates more money to communities with less property wealth?
Yeah, redistributes. I was trying not to use that word.
Yeah, but that's not allocating more money to communities with property with less.
Then it's a comparative question. Then those communities with more property wealth.
Right. But
Carrie, can you scroll up just a little bit so we can see 1 and 2 while we're.
No, I just want to sort of break it down though. A statewide funding system. I mean, let's say it was all coming from a non-state, a non-property tax state fund.
That's a good thought. So just a state one,
I mean,
we
yeah,
just
it's all
a funding system.
Right. These are state dollars. So no matter what it's doing, these are state dollars. So it's not giving more state dollars to a property poor community and less state dollars to a property wealthy community. It is giving the exact amount of state dollars to pay for the cost of an adequate education. cost of
Throughout
an
the state.
adequate education may be costed according to a formula
Mhm.
that might put more dollars in a less, in a high poverty community than in a low poverty community. But that's not what this question's about.
If this, I really agree with Dave here. If the question is, do you support a statewide funding system that pays for education? And that's the question. I don't think we should be, I don't think we should be getting into the redistributive nature of that. I mean, if that's the question, if that's the answer we're seeking, there it is.
Well, the question that I would have, though, it doesn't really deal, though, with the, so the answer is yes or no. So what does that tell you?
Right.
Without an understanding of what that might mean, to me,
If you start diving into the donor communities question again, you're going to go down a rabbit hole that I don't think is I don't think I just don't think that's going to be helpful.
I'm concerned about that too. Yeah.
You're going to get into the donor community question.
Yeah, and number two is you know, asking much the same as what that question below it is asking. I wouldn't delete that just yet, because it may be one of those last questions. Maybe that we've set that up.
Or could we think about using maybe a uniform statewide funding system that has the money distributed, or distribution of money to, in a uniform ways, to communities with less property wealth, and less money to more proper. Well, wait a minute. I got to think about it again. To support a statewide system that uniformly distributes funding to communities regardless of property wealth. Does that get to what you want to ask them? To support a statewide funding system. That
Well, but that's not entirely. You know what this is sort of where I think you're going with this, Corinne. I think it's a good direction. It's the fiscal neutrality.
Yes.
Point, and it's not the fiscal neutrality as was defined back in some paper we read, 30 years ago, but the updated definition of fiscal neutrality that I think Bruce and Jordan worked on, because I remember the original definition of fiscal neutrality that we looked at said the cost of education in a community should be completely independent of the wealth of that community.
Yeah, I remember reading that too.
That's not true, because we know that the cost of education in high poverty communities is going to be higher. We know that.
Right. Yeah.
So we updated it to be open to that consideration.
I want to note the time. It's 10:40. Our time is
I know.
slowly being sucked away.
So look at the other questions.
Yes.
Just replay it on Monday.
Let's leave this kind of question 3 jumble the way it is for now. That's fine. These are not final questions. I'm going to get rid of this one.
Can you try to capture, though, that thought of it costs more to educate a child in a property poor community?
Not necessarily property poor, of poverty.
Fine. Yeah, you got it with the community. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, don't worry. I'll do some.
I just think that is a key thing to try to elicit some response later, but that we don't have the question.
And do you mean income, like household income versus property wealth?
I think so. I think
Okay.
we do. I think the
That was
FR
a question that Chris Dwyer didn't think it played in, but.
well, the FRL is what I think we're going to hear is the proxy for low income.
There are communities in New Hampshire that have low property wealth and high median
High
household
income.
income. And Bedford is actually an example of one of those.
Mm-hmm.
Where's Brookline? But I would say it's not accurate to say it costs more to educate a child in a low-income community than in a higher-income community. Children who are economically disadvantaged in either community cost more.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on.
Go on.
I liked actually Dick's term, economically disadvantaged students.
Great.
Cost more. Yeah.
That's the term I would. Yes, good.
We don't have that data. So just leave low income community someplace there so that we can evaluate these two things. I don't believe, while I don't disagree with the statement, I don't believe we have that data.
Okay.
I believe our data is all by school district.
Okay. Good to know.
Okay,
All right.
so let's go down there, Carrie.
So these are our final 4 questions to look at.
Keep in mind that probably 5 or 6 questions is really our target here.
Yeah.
Stay focused.
And we have about 3 at the top now. So this would be 7. So
Yeah, we can go 6 or 7, maybe.
I wonder what John thinks is 6.
Let's look at 5 first, though, because that does give us some indication. This question hasn't been asked for over 10 years now.
Yeah.
So in 5, looking at Chris's comment here, what if we replace the word other with some combination?
I believe this question is a longitudinal grand state poll question. So this is something that has been asked before.
Okay.
I don't see the value that question 5 provides.
Well, I think the value is you get some indication of where people are regarding, you just ask a whole bunch of questions around property tax, statewide property tax. The question is, in here, is that what are their feelings about that? I do think I think there's value here.
Well, I think what Carrie said is it'll actually show trend.
Yeah.
Right? Because you said it's been asked before.
Yeah.
I believe this is one of the ones, and Bruce, maybe I'd have
Yeah,
to
that's
look
true. We
back.
just have to, if we're going to really make a direct longitudinal comparison, we'll just have to go back and check and make sure the wording is pretty much
Right.
exactly the same,
Yeah.
including the choices there that are laid out.
Mhm.
I think those are the same choices I might have been, I think I'm the one that stuck in that other at the end, just to throw it in. But if those are the same choices, then let's keep that, so I can make the comparison.
All right. And so the last time this question was asked, I believe it was asked once in 1999 and once in 2002.
Right, right.
Oh, that's actually, those are actually really good,
Yeah.
yeah, points in history. So very
So,
relevant.
so Carrie, could you check with a survey to see what exactly is that longitudinal question, so we know what that question
See if I
actually
can
is that's
find it
been
here.
asked?
I've got it. Let me look it up while you guys are talking.
Can we get rid of the red comment now? Yeah, I personally, I'd love to see a grid.
Say a little more, Jay.
But just, you know, you got your choices, and then you got percentages. You know, people like to see a mix of these things, and my fear is that if you put it that kind of grid there, that people will check the 0 to 25 box for all of them. But I think right now we ask this question, nobody's going to check. Nobody wants it to be with local property taxes. I don't know.
We'll see what comes back. Yeah.
See what the other wording is, yeah.
Yeah, see what the wording is, and then let's go with
Yeah,
that.
it gives you a dipstick check on where people think the revenue should be raised.
So Jay, you're thinking, is there a way we can include like a percentage grid in this question?
It's just was a thought.
Okay.
You know, because that ultimately this is what we're coming down to, right? I mean, that's what it's gonna. That can be 100% statewide property tax. That's not an option.
Yep. And so that is something to keep in mind, like, as you know, just continuing to come back to is like, what does the commission need to know from the public so you can inform your decisions? Like that's what these questions are for. How is this going to inform the process from the public? You know, there'll be quite a hopefully quite a large response from this.
Okay, let's look at 6.
Okay, great.
I don't think we need that.
Agreed.
Oh, that's 2 agrees.
Yeah, I kind of figured this one was going.
This one right here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm loving this. New number 6.
Mm,
It feels a little bit like this is a push-pull question.
yeah. Of course they're going to say yes.
Right. It's
So-
also what the courts have mandated. So in terms of what you're learning, you know, like the legislature has been told to do this.
I don't understand. Yeah.
Don't need it.
Delete.
Okay, excellent. New number 6. Here,
How
I'll
many
scroll up.
questions can we have again?
You know, we're shooting for 6 or 7. It's just
Okay, all right, so we're within the range then.
Probably just
Yeah,
not-
this is good. This is good.
Okay.
I like this question. I don't think all these options are of equal value.
Is this a question from my, I mean, Jay, I guess I'm curious to know your thoughts on this too. Well, everyone here, but is this a question that is better determined by education professionals?
Did we ask this on the educator survey? Something like this?
We didn't ask this yet, kind of, and I think like what the findings are going to show from the analysis that Sarah and I are doing, it'll show, you know, some of these, what people are gravitating towards, and so it will answer this question in many ways. If we agree that this is a question we want to ask on the Granite State poll, so remember, I want to remind everybody who the demographic is. So this is just, it'll be across New Hampshire. It's a web panel, which my understanding is an online survey. It'll be out for a week or so, I believe, and then it's a fast turnaround.
And this is sent to a targeted group, correct?
No, it's random.
Oh, it is.
A random sample of New Hampshire, or people who have responded. It's not a random sample. That's incorrect.
But there is a defined universe that's responding to this.
Yeah, it's sent
This
out.
is not just an ad hoc, anybody wants to respond. Isn't the demographics of the universe with which they're surveying identified through a random sort of some sort?
I'll clarify with Zach what, I'm going to do a big scroll up, so close your eyes. Let me,
Yeah, John, I don't know what we do with the information if we got all that.
Right, it doesn't address adequate education or funding.
I mean, I think what it could tell you, I'm not advocating for, I'm just, what it could tell you is what the public sees is valuable in public education. So there may be a lot of public respondents who don't have a sense of what's included in the funding. That could be potentially true.
This could be the
Go
one
ahead.
recommended question that we ask in the GSP. So it could simply be, what is the most important factor in ensuring that students receive an adequate education? And asking that of the general public could be informative. A lot of them might simply say the amount of money that goes in. A lot will say the teacher, the quality of the teacher. Some people will say facilities. These days, a lot of people will say technology and access to remote learning. So it's a bit of a taking the pulse in a context setting way. It doesn't answer specific.
Is this potentially a rank order? Rank order your top 5?
Sure.
If you gave them the choices, yeah. Then the question is what choices to give them.
That to me would have a greater relevance than just a listing. I wouldn't know how to respond to, what am I going to do with this list? Other than if I'm going to say, okay, class size is the most important.
No, you can do rank on this.
Yeah, if you asked them what are the most important factors, you could do list your top 3 most important factors or your top 5, top 3 in order of importance or something, in order of priority for an effective public school, for effective, it's not really the word I want, but the top 3 factors for what?
Well, it's the top 3 or 5. What are the most important ingredients for providing an education that meets students' needs? List the top 3 or 5.
I'd say to list the top 5.
Okay.
It gives you a better range.
Yeah.
Do we have facilities in?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, we do.
In there,
We have
yeah.
Classrooms and buildings, yeah.
okay, noting the time that both Dave and I have got to get off here. Carrie, will you redo that? We redo our notes here and send them out to us for comment so that we can at least come with a draft of our work this morning.
Yep.
Can be
I'm
done?
gonna clean it up and I'll send it back to everybody.
Okay.
Bruce will include it in the agenda and the documents for Monday's meeting.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
then we have a couple folks who are listening. I'd also encourage them if they have some suggestions to, or at least throw them at Carrie and let's see how that might work.
Right.
Yep.
What question isn't being asked that needs to be?
All right.
Great. This was
So we
really
good?
great, everybody.
Great.
Thanks very much. Thanks.
Mhm.
Okay. Thanks,
Okay.
Carrie, for
Thanks,
your,
everybody. Have a
thanks, Carrie, for your work.
Bye.
Thank you.
great
Bye-bye.
weekend.
Have a good weekend, everybody.
Yep.
Bye, everyone. Thank
Bye.
you so much. This is great.